and no clue how the world works outside this house. Walk away all you want, but you'll come crawling back the moment you realize power isn't something you can just take. A slow smirk tugged at the corner of Nate's lips. He finally turned his head just enough to glance over his shoulder, but instead of answering, he simply walked upstairs. Now wasn't the time for a reckless move. He needed a real plan. 2 weeks later, the halls of Harrington Academy were filled with the privileged and the powerful, the children of senators, billionaires, and industry leaders. For years, Nate had played his part, the quiet but sharp observer. He had connections, influence, and a last name that turned heads. But respect had to be earned. And in high school, respect belonged to those who took it. The school had its own hierarchy. At the top stood Ryan Carter, the golden boy, 6'2", football team captain, son of a real estate mogul. Charismatic, ruthless, and smart enough to know that power wasn't just about throwing punches, it was about control. And right now, Nate was in his sights. It happened fast. The moment Nate stepped through the back entrance, he knew. The subtle shift in the air, the unnatural quiet, the way students near the lockers pretended not to look. An ambush. Before he could react, 4 guys stepped in, trapping him. Ryan stood at the center, arms crossed, smirking like a king surveying his court. "You think you're better than us, Grayson?" His voice was casual, almost bored, but his intent was clear. "Walking around like you own the place, like your name actually means something." Nate held his ground. "It does mean something. That's why you're wasting your time with this little stunt." Ryan's smirk widened. "You talk big for someone who's outnumbered." Nate didn't bother looking at the 4 guys surrounding him. Numbers only mattered in a fight. And this wasn't about fists. This was about perception. Ryan wasn't here to beat him up. He was here to make a statement, which meant Nate still had room to maneuver. Luke, one of Ryan's guys, stepped forward, grabbing Nate's shirt and slamming him against the wall. Nate exhaled sharply but didn't resist. Fighting was for idiots. Power wasn't about who threw the hardest punch, it was about who controlled the board. And Nate was already making his first move. Ryan stepped in closer, voice dropping. "You're nothing without your last name, and I think it's about time you learn where you really stand." A nod. Luke pulled out his phone, the red recording light glaring in Nate's face. Live. So that was the game. Nate understood immediately. Ryan wasn't after pain, he was after humiliation. Public ruin. Bruises faded. A viral video was forever. Ryan took another step forward, his presence suffocating. "Kneel." The word echoed, louder than it should have. The guys flanking Nate shifted, waiting. Even the students pretending not to watch had stopped pretending. A slow silence settled between them. Then, Nate smiled. Not forced, not nervous, just amused. He glanced at Luke's phone, then back to Ryan, shaking his head. "You really want to do this on camera?" Ryan barely blinked. "I told you to kneel." Nate exhaled through his nose, almost like a laugh. He leaned in slightly. "You think I'd kneel for someone who needs 4 guys to hold me down?" His voice was calm, collected, and that made it worse. Ryan's expression flickered, just for a second. A crack in the facade. Doubt. Luke hesitated. So did the others. Nate saw his opening. Control was slipping through their fingers, and he was about to make